Captain Elias Mercer stood beneath the twin suns of Kareth Prime, sweat glinting on his brow. The planet was hot, dusty, and loud. Alien traders shouted in strange tongues, the scent of metallic sand mixing with roasted spice and burning fuel. He had been here for 3 months, working as part of the Human Alliance's peace mission. His job was simple: help the local alien people, the Tervans, keep order after a long civil war. The Tervans were tall, scaled beings with dark silver skin and piercing yellow eyes. Their culture valued strength above all. To them, humans were small, fragile, and far too emotional. Yet Elias had earned quiet respect. He did his duty without fear, spoke with calm words, and helped both sides rebuild. Still, most Tervans saw him as different. Soft, strange, not one of them. That morning he walked through the marketplace, his uniform dusty but clean. His translator chip buzzed softly in his ear, picking up alien chatter. He smiled at the children running by with toy blades and small drones. The war had ended, but scars still remained. Some parts of the city were filled with gangs, made up of angry young Tervans who had lost everything. Elias knew this well. He had been a soldier once too. He was about to return to his outpost when a sharp cry broke through the air. It was high, frightened, a child's scream. He turned. Down one of the narrow side alleys he saw 3 Tervan thugs cornering a small girl. She looked no older than 6 human years, her pale silver skin bright against the dark walls. The men were shouting something in Tervan, something cruel. One grabbed the girl's arm roughly and she struggled, crying louder. Elias didn't think. He just moved. He sprinted into the alley. "Stop!" he shouted, voice echoing. "She's a child!" The Tervans turned toward him, surprise flashing across their sharp faces. One of them, a massive brute with scarred scales, laughed coldly. "A human?" he sneered. "You dare give us orders, weakling?" Elias raised his hands. "Let the girl go. She's no threat to you." The leader stepped closer, towering over him. "You think you can command me, little man? This child is spawn of our enemy's general. She deserves pain." Elias felt his chest tighten. He didn't understand all of Tervan law or revenge customs, but he knew one thing: no child deserved harm. "Then punish the general," he said, calm but firm, "not the innocent." The thug's grin widened. "You speak too boldly for a fragile creature." Elias didn't back away. He looked straight into the alien's yellow eyes. "Then hit me instead." For a moment silence hung in the alley. Even the child stopped crying. The leader tilted his head. "You would take her punishment?" "Yes," Elias said quietly. "She's just a child. Leave her alone." The alien roared with laughter. "You're insane, human." But Elias didn't move. Something about his stillness angered the Tervans even more. They saw it as defiance, a challenge. The leader's grin twisted. He lifted his heavy club and slammed it across Elias's side. The pain hit like fire. Elias staggered but didn't fall. He took a breath, straightened again, and stood between the girl and her attackers. Another blow came, harder. The club struck his shoulder, breaking skin. Blood ran down his arm. Still, he didn't move. The other 2 aliens began to hit him too. Fists, kicks, clubs. Elias blocked what he could, but they were too strong. His ribs cracked, his vision blurred, but he stayed upright. The girl behind him sobbed, clutching his coat. When Elias finally dropped to one knee, the leader leaned close, his voice a growl. "Why do you protect her? She's not your kind." Elias spat blood and met his eyes again. "Because she's a child. That's enough." The alien hesitated. For a heartbeat, even he seemed uncertain. But before he could strike again, a sharp command echoed down the alley. "Stop!" A group of armored Tervan soldiers appeared, led by a tall woman in silver combat armor. Her scales shimmered with deep violet lines of command rank. Her eyes burned with power and fury. Commander Serena, the same woman who led the Peace Guard. The same woman whose name the locals spoke with both fear and respect. The thugs froze. One dropped his weapon immediately. Serena's gaze swept the scene, cold and sharp. Her voice came like steel. "Who dares harm a child under my watch?" The leader tried to stammer an excuse. "Commander, we didn't know, she—" But Serena's eyes were already on Elias. She saw the blood on his face, his torn uniform, and the tiny child clinging to his leg. "Medic team now!" she barked. Her soldiers rushed forward, pulling the thugs away in chains. Elias swayed as two medics knelt beside him. "She safe?" he asked weakly, looking toward the girl. Serena knelt beside him, her expression unreadable. "She is unharmed," she said quietly. "You took the beating meant for her." Elias smiled faintly, pain clear in his eyes. "Someone had to." She studied him, her alien gaze lingering. Humans were small, soft-skinned, weak by Turvan standards. Yet this one had stood against 3 trained brutes without fear. "Why?" she asked softly. "You knew they would hurt you." Elias gave a weak shrug. "On Earth, we don't stand by when a child cries for help." Serena said nothing. The medics lifted him onto a hover stretcher, and the child clung to his arm. As they moved through the streets, people stared at the beaten human, the rescued child, and the feared commander walking beside them. Rumors began spreading that very moment. Later in the medical chamber, alien healers worked over Elias. Their technology hummed and glowed, sealing his wounds and knitting broken ribs. Even sedated, he didn't cry out once. His pulse stayed calm. The medics exchanged looks. They had never seen such quiet endurance. Commander Serena stood behind the glass, watching. The child, Lyra, sat beside her mother's leg, her small hand clutching Serena's armor. She looked up at her mother. "He saved me." Serena looked down at her daughter. "Yes," she said softly. "He did." For the first time in many cycles, the great warrior commander felt something unfamiliar. Not battle rage, not pride, but ingratitude, and something deeper, harder to name. When Elias woke, it was night. The alien room glowed softly with green healing light. He felt sore but alive. He turned his head and saw Commander Serena standing nearby, arms crossed, watching him silently. "How long was I out?" he murmured. 6 hours, she said. "You lost much blood." Elias smiled weakly. "Could have been worse." Serena tilted her head. "You are a strange human." "I get that a lot." She stepped closer, her tone calm but firm. "You risked your life for my daughter." Elias blinked. "Your daughter?" "Yes," Serena said. "The child you protected is mine. Lyra." Elias fell silent. He hadn't known. He had just seen a child in danger. He hadn't asked who she was. Serena continued. "Those men were remnants of the war. They sought revenge against my family. You stepped between them and my blood." Elias nodded slowly. "Then I'd do it again." That answer surprised her. "Even knowing who they were?" "Yes," Elias said. "Doesn't change what's right." For the first time, Serena smiled, a faint, rare curve of her lips. "Humans truly are peculiar." He chuckled softly. "We prefer the word stubborn." Serena studied him for a long time. There was no fear in his eyes, no regret, no weakness, only quiet resolve. In her world, strength meant power, dominance, survival. But this human had shown another kind of strength, one born from heart, not muscle. As she left the chamber, her daughter ran to her side. Lyra's small hand reached up toward her mother's. "Will he be okay?" she asked. Serena looked back once more at the sleeping human, the man who had bled for her child. "Yes," she said finally. "He will live." Lyra smiled, relieved. But Serena's expression was thoughtful, complex. Because deep inside, a truth had already begun to take root. This human had done what no Turvan warrior ever had. He had acted with pure courage and compassion, without seeking reward or honor. He had saved her daughter when her own soldiers had failed. And as she looked one last time through the glass, she felt something stir within her. a strange pull, both curious and powerful. Commander Serena, the iron-hearted protector of Kareth Prime, did not yet know what that feeling meant. But she knew this much. She would not forget the human named Elias Mercer. The twin suns of the planet Varanth burned low on the horizon, painting the royal citadel in shades of gold and crimson. Inside the towering palace, silence filled the great hall as the alien king sat upon his throne. His face, lined with age and worry, was turned toward the trembling figure kneeling before him. His daughter, Princess Liara. Liara's eyes were downcast. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, but her shoulders shook under the weight of humiliation. Around the hall, alien nobles and generals stood in a circle, whispering to one another. They all knew the truth. The princess was weak. She had failed the trial of strength, the sacred test every royal must pass to prove their right to rule. While others of her race could control powerful energy weapons with ease, Liara could barely lift a sword. Her body was frail, her heart too gentle. Again, the king's voice echoed, deep, stern, and filled with restrained anger. Liara hesitated but obeyed. She raised the training blade again, trying to summon the inner energy that her people called Veil, the life force that flowed through all Varanths. The sword flickered with pale light for a few seconds before dying out. The court laughed quietly. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she did not cry. Not in front of them. The king rose slowly, his heavy cloak dragging behind him. "Enough," he said. "You shame your lineage, my daughter. The blood of warriors runs through our veins, yet you—" He paused, voice tight with disappointment. "You cannot even summon a spark." Liara lowered her head. "I'm sorry, father." He turned away. Sorry does not defend a kingdom. The hall emptied, leaving Liara alone. She stood there for a long time, staring at the sword that had failed her. That night the king met with his council. The war on the outer planets was growing worse, and enemies circled like vultures. His daughter's weakness was more than a personal shame. It was a threat to the throne. "We need an heir who can fight," said General Kor. "If she cannot, the people will never follow her." The king's jaw tightened. "I know. But there is another option," spoke the royal advisor, a tall alien with glowing blue eyes. "The humans. Their soldiers are strong. Too strong for their fragile worlds. One of their captains is here, sent by the Terran Alliance as an observer. Perhaps he can do what we cannot." The king frowned. "A human?" "Yes, sire. His name is Captain Joran Hale. He has survived wars that would have killed our kind. Some say his endurance borders on madness." The king thought deeply. A human training his daughter. It was unheard of. But the desperation in his heart left no room for pride. "Bring him to me." The next morning, Liara was summoned to the throne room once more. When she entered, she found not only her father but also a tall, broad-shouldered man, with short brown hair and calm gray eyes, standing beside him. His uniform was plain, his expression unreadable. "This is Captain Joran Hale from the human fleet," said the king. "From this day forward, he will train you." Liara's eyes widened. "A human?"
"Yes," said the king. "Our ways have failed you."
"Perhaps theirs will not." Liara turned to Joran, studying him carefully. He was different from her kind. Heavier, slower perhaps. But there was something in his eyes that made her uneasy. They were not cruel, but they carried weight. The weight of someone who had seen too much war. "I do not need him," she said quickly. "I can improve. I just need more time." The king's voice was cold. "You have had time. You will go with him." Liara wanted to argue, but one look at her father's face told her it would be useless. Joran gave a respectful nod. "I'll take care of her, Your Majesty. But I won't treat her like royalty. If she wants to learn, she'll earn it." The king nodded. "Good. Take her to the southern training fields. You have one cycle. Return when she can stand as a warrior, or not at all." The training camp was far from the palace, located in the barren mountains. The air was thin, the ground rough and cold. When they arrived, Liara looked around in quiet despair. There were no servants, no luxury, no comfort. Only the harsh wind and empty sky. "This is where you'll stay," Joran said, unloading supplies from a transport. "You eat what you earn. You sleep when the work is done." Liara frowned. "You can't speak to me like that. I am the daughter of—" He interrupted calmly. "Out here, you're just Liara, not a princess. If you want special treatment, go home." She fell silent, stunned by his tone. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. He handed her a pack. Put that down over there. We'll start with basic conditioning. Conditioning, she asked. Strength training, he said. If you can't lift your own weight, you can't lift a sword. Let's see what you've got. For the next hour, he made her run up steep hills, carry stones, and balance on narrow ledges. Her legs burned, her lungs ached, and her arms trembled. Sweat covered her skin, but she refused to quit. Every time she slowed, Joran would simply say, "Again." By the time the sun set, she collapsed to the ground, exhausted. "You lasted longer than I expected," Joran said quietly, sitting beside her. "Most people give up faster." Liara looked at him, panting. "You humans are cruel," he smiled faintly. "No, we just don't believe in limits. You'll see." She wanted to hate him for pushing her so hard, but deep inside a strange feeling stirred. Something like pride. Days turned into weeks. Every morning before dawn, Joran woke her for training. He taught her balance, hand-to-hand combat, and how to channel her energy into focus, not emotion. When she failed, he didn't yell. He simply made her try again, and again, and again. "You think strength is about muscle," he said one day. "It's not. It's about will. You can be the weakest body in the galaxy and still win, if your mind doesn't break." Liara listened, though sometimes she didn't understand. Humans fought differently. They didn't rely on energy or magic. They relied on sheer stubbornness. During one lesson, he made her hold a stance for hours under the blazing suns. Her legs shook violently, but she refused to drop. Joran watched quietly. "You're improving," he said finally. Liara's lips trembled. "Feels like dying," he smirked. "Good. That means you're living the right way." That night she lay under the stars, her body sore, her mind full of questions. Why did this human care so little for pain? Why did he fight with such calm, even when nothing was left to fight for? She didn't know it yet, but something inside her was changing. One evening during sparring practice, she slipped and fell hard on the rocky ground. Blood trickled from her arm, bright blue against her skin. Joran knelt beside her. "You're bleeding." "I'm fine," she said, trying to stand. He raised an eyebrow. "That's a first. A princess saying she's fine after falling face first into a rock." Liara managed a weak smile. "Maybe I'm learning something from you, human." He nodded. "Good, because war doesn't care who you are. It only cares if you get back up." Those words stayed with her long after the pain faded. By the end of the first month, Liara's body had begun to change. Her movements were sharper, her strikes stronger. She still had far to go, but Joran noticed the spark in her eyes, the same spark he had seen in soldiers who refused to surrender. One night, as they sat by the fire, Joran looked at her and said, "Your father was right to send you here. But he made one mistake." She looked up. "What mistake?" "He thought you were weak." "You're not. You just never had someone who expected you to fight back." Liara said nothing, but her chest tightened. For the first time in her life, someone had called her strong, not as a lie, but as truth. She looked at the human sitting across from her, his face lit by firelight, and whispered, "Then I will fight back." "For myself," Joran smiled. "Good. Tomorrow we start real combat drills." Liara nodded, feeling both fear and excitement. For the first time, she wanted to train. She wanted to prove to herself that she could stand tall, not as a princess, but as a warrior. And as the stars shimmered above the alien sky, a faint wind carried the promise of change. The weak princess was fading. Something stronger was waking within her, something fierce,